Okay, I'll go like this. I'll go like this. All right, we're going to share the screen now. This is Naturopathic Doctors for Truth. We are gathering elders and wise NDs and other special guests to open discussion of important topics in naturopathic medicine and to address troubling trends during these times. We don't need to all agree on what the truth is, but we all agree that we need to be free to express our views, whatever those may be. All right. All right. Awesome. Awesome. So there's the intro. I'm here with George Wiseman. This is NDs for Truth number 18. 18 is a very special number. It's twice 9. We could get into some vector mathematics if we have time, but there's lots of really cool things that George and I would like to talk about. So let me just give a little brief introduction, and you can also share a little bit about yourself as well, George. So George Wiseman grew up on a ranch in the backwoods of British Columbia, learning the value of hard work, knowledge, and skills. He became a jack of all trades and subsequently became an inventor that has changed entire venues with his innovations. And I actually have been listening to a lot of your talks, and some of those things I would just love to, we could probably have an 8-hour talk, easy. He started working with Brown's gas in 1986, creating practical machines to apply this amazing gas in applications such as fuel saving, torch fuel gas, and radioactive neutralization. He has become worldwide recognized and renowned in the practical applications of Brown's gas. In 1996, his customers told him of their astonishing healings using Brown's gas. It took them until 2005 to convince Mr. Wiseman to try the Brown's gas on himself, and he subsequently has had substantial health improvements. Currently, he has developed a machine specifically optimized to safely provide Brown's gas for health in every home, and I know that is called the AC50, right? The
AquaCure AC50, yes.
The AquaCure AC50, which is a really, really well fabricated, safe device that I know a lot of people are having fun with. Now, if you see here in the back, this is my ER50. This is, what would you call this? Like an earlier model? Would you call it an earlier model?
Yes, I would. And in fact, that's what I have here when I'm inhaling right where I'm sitting right now. It's still an original ER50. Yes.
All right. Well, I'm going to be inhaling along with you.
Yes.
I just built this. I just finalized building this about 2 weeks ago. So I'm pretty new to the whole technology, but I could say, having just started, it's fantastic. I've seen undeniable improvements in, for instance, people's pain when they're inhaling just for 5-10 minutes, maybe 20 minutes. My own, I feel like I'm cleaner, lighter, lots more energy, healthier. So we'll talk about that. But I do want to salute Mr. Wiseman here for his generous offering of knowledge and help in building it. So I know that you sell your devices, but you don't patent them. Is that right, George?
That's correct. Quite a long story. And on my website, I have 12 reasons why I don't patent. But in the end, it comes down to, I want to help people. And instead of patenting, what I do is I teach them how to duplicate what I've done.
It's awesome. And you have done so with me. And I'm very, very grateful. Would you say that offering this without a patent has left you financially hurting?
No, not at all. I think that it's hard to explain, but I think it was necessary. It was what I was meant to do. And when you're doing what you're meant to do, everything that you need comes to you, including the financial resources. And I have plenty of financial resources at this time. And I've been a self-employed inventor since 1984. I've never taken any government grants. I did have a couple of angels donate some money and space and things from time to time. but when I needed it, but again, it came when I needed it. And then when I
Yeah.
didn't need it anymore, we moved on. And so this whole thing is developed organically. And I certainly am financially okay.
That's good. Well, I'm glad to hear that. And again, I salute you for because the withholding of information that could help people is part of the problem that we're facing today on the planet, the greed factor, that everybody is in it for the buck and they're forgetting the fundamental importance of living with an open and giving heart.
Yeah, I found actually that the more I help people, the easier money comes to me. Like people are willing to spend money for somebody who is willing to help them
Yeah,
without worrying about money.
yeah.
And when they need the help, the financial incentive thing is not first. Money is not first. People are first, and you help the people, and then what you need financially comes to you in any case.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, with me as an example, I'm very excited to bring this to the naturopathic community. I'm assuming that out there are probably some naturopaths who have encountered, Brown's gas, but it's certainly not well known. And I think most, I want to call, quote unquote, scientists or medical people, when they hear of, gases from water, they just think oxygen and hydrogen. That's it, because of Faraday's, experiments where he divided them. Could you speak to a little bit of that, and also the difference between just regular, what we hear of as electrolysis, and then what Brown's gas, how it differs?
Yes, that's a very good question, and something that people really need to know the answer to. Michael Faraday, 160 years ago or so, figured out that if you put an electrical current through water in a certain way, he could split the water into hydrogen and oxygen. And for the most part, it was the electrons that were doing that, not the voltage. So the more electrons that go through the water, the more of the water would split into hydrogen and oxygen. And in his particular cells, and for what would it be, over 100 years, the Faraday electrolysis cells had a membrane in the middle between the electrode, cathode, and the anode. So there was a cathode, anode, cathode negative, anode positive, and in the middle there's the membrane. So the hydrogen gases coming off the cathode would go out one hose, and the oxygen gases coming off the anode would go off in another direction. So oxygen, hydrogen separate, 2 parts hydrogen to 1 part oxygen, pure and simple. You could judge the efficiency of an electrolyzer by the amount of current that was flowing through it to the amount of gas that came out. And
Yeah.
generally, they were looking in about the 65% efficiency, and it stayed that way for a long, long time. Then, in 1960s, early 1960s, a fellow by the name of William Rhodes developed what he called the single ducted electrolyzer, where he didn't have a membrane in the middle, and he had the cathode and electrode, and all the gases came off together, which he thought were just simply hydrogen, oxygen, and water vapor. He never analyzed them.
Hmm.
And he saw it was an efficient method, and I won't go into all the other things. I met William Rhodes before he died. He was 94 at the time, and
Amazing.
yeah, and it turned out that the way he developed his electrolyzer was virtually identical to the way that I developed mine. His notes and mine were parallel, almost exactly duplicated the technology, and I didn't know about him, so that was very interesting. A fellow by the name of Yule Brown,
Yeah.
he's in Australia. He was in Australia at the time. Uh, was researching developing hydrogen in order to make cars that would run on water. And in order to finance that, he realized that the gas that he was developing in his electrolyzers, which he used William Rhodes's research for the basic amount of what he was doing, and he patented his own design as well. And so he found that he could use it for a torch fuel gas, and a very practical use of the gas, and did really well. And he was doing that to finance his research. He went to China, he went to America, around the world, promoting the gas. He spent 30 years promoting the gas. Ended up dying penniless because he got in bed with a con man, and that
Oh,
got,
geez.
yeah,
Another
he
one of those stories, huh?
yes, exactly. And the irony is that he never knew about the health benefits of the gas. I didn't either back in those days. Um, and died of sepsis. He got gangrene in a leg on a wound, and he wouldn't go to the hospital, and he ended up dying penniless from sepsis. Which, if he knew about the health aspects of Brown's gas, he could have cured himself with his own
Right.
technology. It was
Right.
an irony there. Okay, so in any case, the Asian countries are far ahead of us over here in America and in the Europe and that kind of thing with this technology, because when they had Yul Brown over there, they took him into, I forget what the name of the complex was, but you could put raw materials in one end and an ICBM missile out the other end. It was a huge military industrial complex
Hmm.
the thing that they did experiments with the Brown's gas, and they did everything. They did a huge amount of research, and China back then was just developing, with just a big development surge, so they didn't have oxyacetylene depots like we have in America, for example. So there wasn't another industry that needed to be displaced. And so when they needed torches, they just simply started building all these little Brown's gas machines, little
Amazing.
and big and that kind of thing. And they put it on all kinds of technology, like in kitchens and in ships, and they just used it all over the place. And then they discovered the health purposes about the same time as my customers were discovering it for me.
Which was in the
Back to
mid
the
90s, right?
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So here, so getting back to the difference,
Yes.
pure hydrogen and oxygen gas does not have all the characteristic gases of Brown's gas. When you eliminated the membrane, and this was an Asian person who was actually, how do I say, collaborated, confirmed. His research, he didn't even know about me, and he came up with the reason why this happens. But
Okay.
there's a third gas that forms right in the middle between the cells that is what I call electrically expanded water.
Is
And
that
it
your
turns,
term that you use?
I named it electrically expanded water. What it actually is the a negatively charged plasma form of water. So you've got
Yes.
four states of matter. You've got a solid, a liquid, a gas, and a plasma.
Hmm.
And so this is a plasma form of water, a true plasma. It's a cold plasma. It's not like the surface of the sun,
Yeah.
but it's a cold plasma, and it's a true plasma. So it's still water. It's still a water molecule, which is why it's not part of the Faraday equations. Okay. So even though you're getting a gas out, and my electrolyzers run at about 130% efficiency, which isn't true, because what actually happens is you've got your hydrogen, you've got your oxygen, and you've got this third gas, which is not part of the Faraday equations. It's the electrons are actually being stuffed into the water in the water molecule, and the water molecule absorbs enough electrons that it actually turns into a gaseous form of water that is not water vapor or steam. So now you
Yes.
have H2O that's just chock full of electrons, and this goes out with the gas as well. So you've got the hydrogen, the oxygen, and the electrically expanded water, and then you have three other gases in there too, which are the next most important or biggest is the water vapor, because anytime you have water, you're going to have water vapor in the gas. And
Yeah.
then, for some reason that I can get into a little bit, you do have a very small percentage of monatomic hydrogen and oxygen,
Yes.
which should not exist, but because of various factors, it does exist. So
Yes.
so we have the six different constituents that come out with the gas, and it turns out that hydrogen is extremely healthy. Anybody that's inhaling hydrogen is doing a good job. It's a good thing.
Let me
And
just add a quick thing here for our listeners. Normally the gas is H2 and O2. So
right,
it's like we don't talk about monoatomic hydrogen as being in existence because it'll bond with the closest thing that it can get.
yep,
That's very highly reactive, and oxygen as well is a highly reactive. So you wouldn't get a monoatomic. So it's very interesting. And I also want to say that I totally accept your idea of plasma. I resonate with it. And I also want to add, there may be other things that we just don't know that's what's coming out of water. We just don't know. Like Walter Russell had several elements. Are you familiar with Walter Russell?
I am.
I would assume you would be.
Mm.
And he named multiple elements before hydrogen, even on his special periodic table. So part of it is a mystery, and for now remains a mystery, I think.
I agree.
Yeah.
It was it was funny. Scientists were thinking, we know everything about water. The science on water is settled.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. No, no,
No,
not at all.
not
I
at
mean,
all. No.
there's so much about water that we're just scratching the surface. Like that's kind of an appropriate expression. There's the memory of water that a lot of research has done. Homeopathy is a testament to that. There's vortexing water, a la Victor Schauberger, and energizing it for health. There's water containing orgone, like it stores orgone most charge at around 4 degrees Celsius. I mean, I could go on and on about water, but absolutely, I could see you're hydrophilic. You love water.
Yes. Yes.
Same with me.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
we are mostly water, H2O. If a person takes all the elements in our body,
Yeah.
which also means that we're mostly hydrogen by weight, or sorry,
By
excuse me, by
volume. Yeah.
volume. Yes,
Yeah.
by volume. Yes. So we're
Cheers.
67% hydrogen. Thank you. Yes. Yes, I have my my bottle here as well. So
Yeah.
so we're 67% hydrogen, 24% oxygen, 12% carbon, and 2% everything else. So when the
By volume.
by volume. So when the nutritionists are saying things like vitamins and minerals and stuff, they're all talking about the 2%, not the
Yeah.
62%, which is the hydrogen. It's our most important macronutrient.
It's very, very interesting. I know that I had read a book by a Pakistani medical doctor who worked with prisoners in Pakistan, and all he had access to, he was in with them, was water.
Right.
And he started curing the heck out of these people just by the administration of water and rehydrating people.
Right.
Yeah.
And a lot of it has to do with intention as well. You can put intention on water and turn it into a medicine, literally.
That's right.
And
Like Ala Masaru Emoto,
Emoto
right?
did. Yes, that's correct. Yes. Yes.
Oh, this is so great. This is so exciting. I mean, I always wanted naturopathic doctors in the medicine to be a lot more open to researching these kinds of things. I think we've gotten a little hung up on, evidence-based medicine and trying to walk the line of emulating conventional medical doctors when they're kind of coming more over to what we have done traditionally. It's a big irony, but this is the kind of research that I would love to see us doing more of. And why not? It's not expensive. It's not an expensive thing to research. Some of your gadgetry to measure gets expensive.
Yeah.
But not building, and the cost of, well, obviously the cost of water, at least until now, hopefully that doesn't change, is relatively low.
Yes. And I recommend people get a distiller so they can get their own pure water. That's what distilled water is. It's not bad for you. It's pure water.
That's right.
Now there are things where people say if you drink distilled water that it'll leach out things out of your body, and that is true. However, it leaches out both the good and the bad, and then you take your nutrition to put the good back in. So it's chelating, and when you have pure water, then you don't have the impurities that your body then has to deal with, like especially city water, where they just keep recycling. It's almost like you're on a spaceship and you pee and then you clean it and then you drink it again, kind of thing.
And you add your birth control pills at a higher and higher concentration and so on.
Hormones and all the other kinds of things. Exactly.
Antidepressants. They measured Montreal water. That's where I am, and the level of antidepressants and birth control pills was immense, like very, very high, like biologically active at that concentration.
Yeah, and that could be one reason why the birth rate is falling then, because which has been noted recently. It's not just that young women are taking the birth control pill. It may be also because of the water. That sounds interesting.
Or because of some certain things that people stick in their arms to.
Yes.
Yes.
More recently, there are things biological. Well, I can't exactly call it biological, can I? But anyway, there are things that people are sticking in the arms that are causing sterilization. That is correct.
Now help me out a sec here. I have found, George, that I'm questioning everything. The last year, I've always been a person to question things, but there are certain things that I took for granted. But I'm questioning everything. All this science that I've learned, I think we really need to look at everything that we have ingested since we're young, because some of it is just plain wrong and unscientific. And what you could observe nature and say that's not true what I learned. So let me ask you.
I don't know if you know, but you were froze there for a second.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah. I think I'm back. So
You
what was
learn
the
from nature, yes.
yeah, what was the last thing you heard?
You're learning from nature.
Yeah, that's right. So what I learned is that when you drink distilled water, it has no electrolytes. So it actually rushes into the cell because the cell has a higher concentration of electrolytes. So just by the turgor pressure, osmotic pressure, the water will flow towards the higher concentration of electrolytes, thereby causing swelling. That's what I learned. I don't know what you have to say about that.
I'm not well enough knowing the physiology of it. That sounds right, and
Yeah.
I'd say that that tends to indicate hydration. Then, so instead of being wrinkled like a prune, you fill out.
Yeah,
And
you'd get more. Yeah, you might get a little edema if you drank too much of it, but I don't think that's actually the case of what's actually happening.
no,
It's a
you're
theoretical idea.
yeah, your body is very good at getting rid of excess water if everything is in balance. There isn't a problem there, and a lot of the water in your body is actually in a gel form, actually not in a liquid form, but in a gel that's called exclusion zone gel, which Pollock, Gerald Pollock, you're probably familiar with the what he called easy water in his book. The
No,
book.
I'm not familiar with that.
Okay, so it's actually one of the reasons that blood can flow around in your body, and the cells actually have a turbidity, a rigidity. They have a plumpness. It's because of this thing that's called EZ zone, and what had uh, an easy water or gel. I have to keep calling it gel. Originally, it was called water, and his book said the fourth phase of water, which actually it wasn't, because the fourth phase of water is actually the electrically expanded water, EXW,
Yeah,
because it's the plasma form. But
right.
and this EZ gel is between a solid and a liquid, so it's a gel, right? So in any case, it's also very slippery, and it's slippery for a couple of different reasons, having to do with electrons and such. So think of it this way: every red blood cell has a coating. First of all, it has easy gel inside it to give it its shape, and then
Yeah.
it has a coating on the outside of it, which is negatively charged, and all the capillaries, or all the veins and arteries and capillaries,
Yeah.
also have this coating on it, which is negatively charged, and like charges repel, right?
Right. So it's
So
like
that so
move on through.
the red blood cells come to a capillary, which is, say, half or even a third the size of the red blood cell. There's no way you're going to stuff that sucker in there, but it just shapes itself like a long piece of a hot dog, and
Yeah,
just goes sliding right through there.
like an octopus.
Yeah, yeah, it can squeeze right down through a crack like an octopus. Yes.
That's
And
amazing. It makes me think of something else that, under electron microscopy, you could see red blood cells coagulating when a person is sick.
yes, that's called Rolu, right? Where you stack them like coins. That's what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah,
Okay. So there's an interesting thing that we've discovered with the Brown's gas, is that there's such a thing as low energy Rolu, is what you're just talking about there. But there's actually something called high energy Rolu. Okay. So you can actually get the red blood cells and Rolu is caused by a a difference in the plasma charge and the cell charge. So in the low energy, you've got the cells having a very low charge compared to the plasma, and they lock all together and
mm,
clump. But when you add Brown's gas with the electrically expanded water, it has all those extra electrons, and this gets into some other stuff as well that we can talk about later, having to do with the current situation. But when it adds the electrons to the red blood cell, it causes the red blood cells to get a charge, which attracts other red blood cells, and they actually stack together in exactly the same sort of a Rolu situation. But you get the opposite physiological effects. When you have the low energy ROLU, you'll get a raise in blood pressure. You get a drop in oxygen levels because you're just clogging everything up.
Yeah.
Whereas with the high energy, you get exactly the opposite. You have a slight raise in blood oxygen, a drop in blood pressure, a lower respiratory rate. You're not breathing as quickly. All of these physiological things improve, but the blood corpuscles are all stuck together. The red blood cells, when it's all charged up, and then and that's what I'll do right now. I'm just going to put on my cannulas because I've got my Brown's gas running here, and I love to show people that what we're doing here with the Brown's gas. And so
I'm gonna join you. We're gonna be two peas in a pod over here.
So now I'm inhaling the Brown's gas at about 2% of the air I'm inhaling is Brown's gas. So and as I do that over about a 15-minute period, my blood will start to form this ROLU. We've looked at it with the dark field microscopes in order to see this.
And how do you spell that, George? ROLU. I'm not familiar with the term actually.
It is a French word, and so over there in Montreal, you'd probably be able to find it quicker than I can. But I'm not very good at spelling things out loud.
Oh, no problem. No problem. We could always put it up on the website after.
And you can look it up. Just sound it out. ROULEAX, I believe, something like that. Rouleau. Yes. Okay.
Okay, rouleau. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Okay. So you know your French.
Well, yeah. J'habite au Québec. I live in Quebec, so I speak French very well.
Je ne parle pas français.
Hey, that's not bad.
I had to learn that in French class. It's pretty much the only thing I learned.
Okay.
Besides, au revoir.
Au revoir.
Bonjour.
Yeah.
Okay, come see. I got a few little words. All right. But because I'm a dual citizen, Canada and the US, I have picked up a little bit of that sort of thing.
Good for you.
Yeah. Anyway, so it's important to understand about the electrically expanded water, this electric charge thing, and because of the physiological things it does in the body, and it enhances the hydrogen. So if you're doing hydrogen by itself, that's good. Your body needs hydrogen. It's your major macronutrient. And most people are not getting enough hydrogen because, unfortunately, in today's society, especially even in the water that we're drinking and stuff, that we've decimated the particular hydrogen, or bacteria that make hydrogen in our colon. So our digestive process starts with the mastication and enzymes in the mouth. We swallow it. It goes through the acids in the stomach, and it does. And at any given time, we're taking out some of the nutrients and things like that. But then we get into the microbiome in the small intestine, and it's doing its thing with the gall and all the other kinds of things that go on. But the food isn't prepared to actually take the hydrogen from the hydrocarbons. So we're eating hydrocarbons, which are hydrogen and carbon, but it's very hard to break them apart. That takes a lot of energy, or enzymes and catalysts. And these particular bacteria in the colon specifically have the ability to finish breaking it apart after the food has been digested all that much. And then the hydrogen goes into your bloodstream through the colon. Your colon breathes. And they're just now discovering this. In fact, they're experimenting with not putting people on ventilators. They're discovering that they can put oxygen up the backside, and people will get oxygen in their blood.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. That'd be great for swimming.
There's an interesting thought as well. Okay.
So do you know the particular name of that particular bacteria in the colon that does that?
There's about 10 of them, and no, I don't.
Okay, so it's not just one specific strain.
But they are very specific in that there are not very many of them that do it efficiently. Now, the only reason that we're still alive, because those particular bacteria are very susceptible to glyphosate and artificial sweeteners and
antibiotics.
Antibiotics kills everything. So, and that's the irony of antibiotics, the miracle of antibiotics. But the irony is, you kill the very bacteria. You kill the bad ones, but you kill the good ones too, that you need to maintain your immune system properly, because you need that hydrogen for your immune system to work. And if you don't have enough hydrogen, the first thing that shuts off is your body's regeneration system. And then if you still don't have enough hydrogen, the next thing your body shuts off, because it's trying to survive. Your body is an amazing survival body. So the
Machine.
next thing
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
machine, yeah. So the next thing is your immune systems, and there's many different things in the immune system that get shut off. And then finally, if you still don't have enough hydrogen, your organs start to fail and you die. So as soon as you start getting with the hydrogen supplementation, you're probably going to feel some additional energy, and then you're going to feel your organs are going to start to heal, and then
Yeah.
your immune systems are going to turn back on. Like I had a heart murmur for 50 years. And once I started inhaling the Brown's gas in about 8 months, I had a full physical done, and I told the doctor, it was a new doctor, uh, and I said I have a heart murmur, and he says, no, you don't.
And how long was that? How long was that?
It was about 8 months
Eight
of
months. Well,
inhaling. Yeah,
that,
yeah.
it's fun. I find it fun to do it. I enjoy it. It feels so good. As soon as I take those first few breaths in the morning, there's a real calming feeling. I feel a calm feeling just being around the bubbling. There's an aura of it. It's a nice feeling. And I find it very pleasurable. If are you finished your thought? I don't want to interrupt you in the
No,
middle of the thought.
there was one additional
Yeah, go
factor.
ahead. And then I'm going to
After
show
the
you.
immune system turns back on, which then, of course, it helps with the big C and a lot of other major ailments,
Yeah.
because your body can now recognize what is supposed to be there and what's not supposed to be there. And of course, all with the current thing as well. So your immune systems are your major defense thing,
Yeah.
and you have amazing God-given immune system. But then the last thing, and what I found astonishing, and I certainly didn't expect, was your regeneration systems come back online, stem
Mm.
cells and things like that. I had a large scar on my forehead here from being hit with an air wrench socket because I was doing some stupid things. I had scars all over my body, and I noticed that the scar was just disappeared. It took a while, but then I suddenly realized it was about a centimeter square on my forehead, and it's gone. It's just completely gone. And then I looked over my body, and almost all of the rest of my scars were gone too, to the point where if I didn't know where they were, I wouldn't even be able to see them. And if I compare, like my knees, one knee had a big scar on it from the surgery and the other one didn't. And if I just put both my knees up and asked, okay, which knee was it that had a scar on it? People wouldn't be able to tell. I know which one it was, but no one would be able to tell because
That's remarkable. I'm a naturopathic doctor, as you know. I work with chronic illness, and in some, degenerative illnesses, I'm looking for healing where the person comes to peace with their degenerative condition, and there's a letting go. They understand how they got sick, why they got sick. They feel at peace with it. But there's not always, or there's not always reversal of some of these degenerative conditions. Are we seeing a reversal of some of these degenerative conditions?
absolutely.
Can you speak a little bit to that?
Um, Parkinson's, for example, is one of the
Yes.
very first ones that we discovered. It was reversing, and I'm not saying it turns people back into normal, but it absolutely stops the progression of the disease. That's pretty much universal. And then as they inhale, that things like when the people are shaking like this,
Yeah.
the tremors go away, and they can live a relatively normal life as long as they're inhaling the gas. Yes.
Amazing. And what about multiple sclerosis, another degenerative disease?
I would say most autoimmune diseases are pretty much mitigated and can be reversed with the gas, based on the experience and studies that are out there. And if you go study hydrogen, like you can go to I think it's molecularinstitute.com or something like that .org, Tyler LeBaron's website, the Molecular Institute. I'd have to look it up. I'm sorry. But in
Okay.
any case, he's got like hundreds of hydrogen studies, and every hydrogen study is applicable with Brown's gas because Brown's gas has a therapeutic level of hydrogen in it. But whatever that can do, the other can do better. There's the current study being done in Germany where they're comparing hydrogen and Brown's gas, and they're finding the Brown's gas to be a 30%. I don't have a copy of the study yet.
Yeah.
They're just concluding it. 30% more therapeutically valuable than just hydrogen alone.
Well, I could
With
see that
the same
because of
rates.
all the thing that's actually you're getting from the water, in addition to the oxygen and the electrically expanded water, the vapor, the fourth state of water,
Yes.
and who knows what else, right?
Well, you think of it this way. Anything that does oxidation, oxidative stress in the body is
Yes.
almost immediately mitigated with the Brown's gas, not because of the hydrogen. Hydrogen is relatively neutral. It's pH neutral and it's electron neutral. But the electrically expanded water has extra electrons. So when you have oxidative cascade, for example, you have and something coming along and grabbing an oxygen, an electron from something, oxidating it, and now that thing is deficient in electrons, and it goes and it grabs it from somebody else, and so you get this cascade happening. So
Yeah.
here you come along with this water molecule, it's bloated full of electrons, saying, here you go, here you go, here you go, and just stops oxidative cascade in its tracks, which is one of the reasons why it stops inflammation and dyspnea. Like one of the in the current situation, when people would go to the hospital presenting with the latter stages of this situation that's locked us down, we they have this dyspnea, and the Brown's gas mitigates the dyspnea within minutes. So here we have people that
Well, with
would
the current
normally,
situation,
yes, yes. So the people would normally being put on a ventilator, which kills 9 out of 10 of the people they put on a ventilator, because
right?
it isn't this particular situation isn't a respiratory disease.
Yeah.
It's a blood disease. And what happens is the red blood cells have the iron kicked out of them by the thing that's running around and people breathing it in. And the
Yeah.
and without iron, the red blood cells can't attach the oxygen in the lungs, and so you end up with blood circulating in your body that is low in blood oxygen. They're having people that are still conscious, actually, this is how they're presenting, with blood oxygen levels in the 70s.
Yeah.
Like that's impossible. But
That's
it
like
but
what some of these last year we saw some of these medical doctors in ER saying this is not the typical presentation of this kind of infection. This looks like like hypoxia, like somebody has altitude sickness or something.
exactly. So
Yeah.
what happens when you start inhaling the Brown's gas is the red blood cells get this charge on them, and then even if they don't have the iron in them, they do accept the oxygen. So within minutes, the people start to get oxygen into their body and breathe, and usually within 3 days, they're walking out of the hospital.
That's
It's that
incredible.
fast.
I
Yeah.
love that. I want to ask you something about the term negative ion. So when you're standing next to a stream or a river and you're meditating or whatever, you could feel the negative. It's called. I feel a sense of peace, of ambience. It's sometimes referred to as negative ions. Would you? Is that similar to what is inside the Brown's gas in the electrically expanded water?
Similar in that it's got a negative charge because it has extra electrons. And again,
Yes.
it's biocompatible, bioavailable electrons. So next to a waterfall or whatever it is that it's actually charging the water. I think it was Strauberger. We did
Victor
a lot of work.
Schauberger. Yeah, yeah, 100%.
Strauberger. We did a lot of work with that, and people have done things where they put high voltage charges on what. In fact, you can make a high voltage charge just by having a jet of water
Yes.
between a nozzle and a plate kind of thing. So it's amazing how it gathers the electrons and makes them bioavailable. But yeah, absolutely, negative ions and earthing, like the people that just go in bare feet out on the beach and in the
Yeah.
dirt. Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely. The
Um,
earth is full of electrons, and we're actually not really meant to have shoes on.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Schauberger also said that the intelligence of a population in an area is directly related to how good the water is that they drink.
I would
So
believe that,
he,
absolutely.
yeah, he came from a similar area in the Alps that Nikola Tesla came from. Those guys were drinking some good water. They were super smart.
Yes, yes,
Cognitive function is improved with Brown's gas inhalation and drinking the saturated water as well.
I would say so. And as an inventor who has done very well, especially after I started inhaling the gas.
That's really funny. I want to just show the viewers my device here. This is George Wiseman's design, and it's a very simple yet very efficient design. You get about 1 liter a minute of gas, which is You know, that doesn't sound like a lot, but it's actually a lot when you start tinkering with HHO initially. HHO is another term that people call for Brown's gas. I like the term Brown's gas, I think, a little more. So the power is coming from the mains. It's being converted into direct current, and it's electrolyzing the water here and here, and then the gas comes out. You can see it kind of bubbling up here. Do you see that movement in your screen?
Yes, I can. Yep.
So the gas comes up and then it comes through here and it goes through a bubbler here. The way that we get a lot of the gas to form, because water doesn't conduct any electricity without electrolytes, is we add electrolyte. In this case, George has found sodium hydroxide to be one of the most efficient, if not the most efficient electrolyte. So if there's any residue of NaOH, sodium hydroxide, it'll get scrubbed out in this water, and then the gasket comes up, goes into the second bubbler, and this is pure deionized water, not dehydrated water, deionized water, and then the gas comes out here, and that's what I'm breathing. So it's very, very clean. It's just pure Brown's gas. There's no toxins there whatsoever. It's totally clean. And this device I was able to make relatively easy. There's some laborious processes of like squeezing the rings there into the thing, but I think once I got used to it, it was super easy, and it's not very expensive. So I have a great device here, and I would love to help people understand how to do that by directing them to the right resources in Eagle Research, which is George's company. So it's real simple. I love watching the bubbles. So do my kids. I'm like a little kid watching the bubbles. It never gets old. I don't know why. Yeah. So So this is really cool. Now, you had said that the Chinese are far advanced, and I know for instance, like in Korea, they have like Brown's gas bars where you go and you could sit down for 5-10 minutes and breathe some Brown's gas, like you might go to get a shot of whiskey, but in this case it's a Brown's gas shot. Have you heard of those Brown's gas bars there?
Yeah, I call it like a cup of coffee, but yes, in fact, that's what finally convinced me to inhale the gas, because in 1996, a customer got in touch with me that had a melanoma on his forehead, and he
Yeah.
treated it by putting Brown's gas bubbled water, and of course, like you say, HHO or hydroxy is another name for it, and there's
Yes.
several other names as well, but those are the three main ones. So anyway, I honor Yul Brown because he commercialized the gas and spent his life doing it. So and even though he tried to sue me, I
Sure.
still honor him for doing the Brown's gas. So anyway, this customer who had bought one of my water torches, and that's just an large electrolyzer that can make enough gas to fuel an acetylene torch. Okay, so he bubbled the gas instead of burning it. He bubbled the gas in water, and then he took that bubbled water. God only knows why. He put it on a cotton ball, put it in a plastic cap, taped it onto his melanoma, and kept resoaking it several times a day for 3 weeks. And by the time 3 weeks was done, the melanoma was gone, completely, 100% gone. And there's been a lot of people getting rid of age spots and things like that using the same technique.
Yeah, like for aesthetics, like beauty products in Asia as well, they're using it for that as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that was in '96. So I didn't believe him, quite frankly, and but being the open-minded, not really, person that I am, I did tell people, here's a potential use. This guy was saying, and I had thousands of people with various forms of Brown's gas electrolyzers at that time, and they started getting back to me with health results. Not all of them, but some of them. So, but it ended up by 2005, it had been hundreds of people had been getting back to me and convinced me to start actually bubbling the water and drinking it myself so that I could drink the water. And I drank it for 2 years, and I used to get sick 3 times a winter. I could count on it. That would be cold, flu, whatever, 3 times a winter. And that 2005, 2006 winters, I didn't even get a sniffle. No sniffle, just from drinking the bubbled water. That convinced me enough. And of course, I just experimented on myself. Now I decided I could recommend it And in 2007, I started building the machine that you have behind you, the ER50, and promoting it for bubbling water. And then from 2007 till 2015, my customers were saying, "Well, can we inhale it? It's a gas. Can we inhale it?" And I'm used to using it for combustion enhancement as a combustion catalyst, and also as a torch fuel gas to cut steel and stuff. And I knew the explosive value of the gas, and I said, "No, don't put an explosive gas in your lungs. Are you?" No, I didn't say
Right.
that, but it's
Especially if
just.
you smoke, you know, so when you're lighting up.
There actually was a customer after we started inhaling like this that did smoke cigarettes while he was inhaling like this, and it did explode, but back into the machine, because I realized after, in December of 2015, one of my customers sent me a video of this Asian bar, Korean bar, that where they could go in and sit down and have a night with the Epoch machines, I believe they were grounds gas machines made by Epoch, and they
Yeah.
could inhale. And I realized, I'm so stupid sometimes. If you mix the gas with enough air, it's not explosive. I've understood, I'm a combustion engineer. I understood the lower combustion limit of explosive gases. I have explosive certification, for example, like when I worked in
Right.
the mines and helped blow mountains apart. So I knew that and I, of course, working with the gas for decades, I knew that within a fraction of an inch past the end of these nozzles here, the gas is non-explosive because it's mixed with the air. Okay.
So
So as
because
soon
you're
as you
drawing in air through your nostrils too, it's not like it's
exactly,
sealed.
exactly. So what so so then there were circumstances that were happening. I couldn't get to it until March of 2016, but then I set up an ER50, very similar to yours. I videotaped myself doing it for the very first time, inhaling it for the first time, with
I've
every
watched that
safety
video.
with every safety protocol that I could. And at that particular moment, it was a low moment in my life, and I really didn't care if I lived or died, quite frankly, and that's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
But I videoed myself so that if there was an explosion or some reason why I died, people would be able to see how stupid I was, and then I eventually
And
put
maybe
that
you
video.
get a Darwin Award or something posthumously.
Exactly, but exactly the opposite happened. Things that I'd had wrong with my body for even while I was drinking the Brown's gas water started to heal. I had the skin peeling off my elbows, knees, and feet. It was like a snake skin peeling off, and it was very disconcerting because it was quite large pieces of skin just peeling off, and
Wow.
and I didn't realize that I had psoriasis for since I was a child. I just thought it was calluses, and because I
Yeah.
worked hard and I had thick calluses and stuff, and so
Yeah.
I just lived with that all these years, and that peeled off, and it was baby smooth skin underneath. It was beautiful skin, and I had, for example, a neuropathy in my left palm, and it was gradually going up toward my fingers. It was getting numb, 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 and I was afraid I was going to lose the function of my left hand, and and that neuropathy, I could feel the feeling coming back in my hand because I was grabbing things and I could feel feeling and stuff like that. But I had neuropathies in the front of my legs and shins from the knees to my feet on both sides. I was numb there. I couldn't feel. And I realized about the time that I had full feeling back in my hand, I felt, oh, I could feel the fronts of my legs again.
Wow.
And anyway, it just continued. There were many, many things that quite amazing things that were happening. And even 4 years later, I was noticing things like I suddenly realized I'm standing in the shower and I'm washing my toes without leaning on the shower wall. I
Ah,
was I had regained my balance.
wow.
And of course and then I realized, when I get out of bed in the morning, I'm putting my pants on without sitting on the bed. I'm
Yeah,
just
right.
standing there and putting my pants on one leg at a time. Of course, my wife knows I put my pants on one leg at a time, so she's not going to say. She's never impressed with me. So well, she's pretty impressive too. So what can I say? But anyway, I had regained balance, and now when I do like the tree yoga stance and stuff like that, I could stand there quite nicely without ever having to stork anything. I
So
regained balance.
it's affecting every system. It's affecting your core strength. It's affecting your central nervous system, your immune system, every single thing, because it just fills in all of the spaces of malnourishment of hydrogen and say electron, like electrically charged, electrically expanded water.
Yep.
You know, I have to say this. I'm really grateful again for the help in doing this, because now I have hands-on experience. I'm really glad I did it myself and I didn't just buy a machine, although not everybody has the time to tinker around and to do that. So I'd I highly recommend, getting some good machines. Um, but the more I get a feel for it, I'm baffled by how many blessings this could bring to humanity. So we haven't even talked about the reduction of emissions from major like diesel engines,
Exactly.
regular automobiles, the
Yep.
reduction in fuel costs, and the potential of converting a car entirely to run on HHO. I think that there's a potential there.
I know that there is. I don't know how to do it. Yul Brown never discovered it. That's the reason he got into the Browns gas to begin with, is because he wanted to
Yeah,
run a vehicle on water. But I've had some in my lab. I've and I have witnesses to these events. I have had what I call hyper water, whatever the case may be, hyper gas, but
yeah.
the where a very small amount of electricity makes a huge amount of gas from the water, but it's only been for very short times, and I've never been able to find the key of why it does it. But it
Oh, I see.
does do it. It is possible to do it. I know it's possible. I've seen it. I just don't know how to duplicate
What
it.
about Stanley Meyer? Do you think what his work was his work authentic, or was it like not?
Yes,
It was legit
it was
because he,
legit.
he was playing with
And
frequencies.
and there's been some others as well that
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. John Keeley would, John Keeley is from the
Yes.
19th century. Yeah, I
Yeah.
figured you would know as well. So there's another mad genius, totally crushing these amazing, almost miraculous kind of things that he was capable of. And he would have known how to split water with frequency, with the relationships between like if you want to support something to create harmony and bring things in resonant harmony together, sympathetic resonance, there's certain frequencies that you do that are harmonious. And to break things apart, you use dissonant chords between two frequencies.
It's astonishing all the developments they were making in the late 1800s and early 1900s.
Yeah,
Like when Keeley was around, it was it was an amazing time. And then people like Morgan got involved in such, and they shut down all of these astonishing technologies before they really developed into anything.
that's
And now
right.
we're getting
Exactly.
around to like even Nikola Tesla at the time that he was shut down in I think it was the very early 1900s, was already proposing things like what we have now, cell phone for every single person on the planet. They'd have their own communication device
Yeah, but he
that
would have made it.
that was powered by the electromagnetics. It didn't need a battery.
Right, exactly. And he knew frequencies that were good for health and ones that weren't good for health. And if he was
Yes,
responsible for building these, we wouldn't have these cancer tumor causing cell phones that we have today, which like just
correct,
eat up your brain.
correct.
Yeah, he would have chosen a frequency which was beneficial for health and for everything, Wi-Fi, cell phone technology, and all like even running the house at 60 hertz is not really that beneficial for health. The frequency that alternating current could be used could be tuned more for health.
Correct.
Yeah. So okay, so we have this environmental impact, we have reduction of fuel costs, or and possibly full conversions at some point. We have health benefits that we're talking about that you have a lot of experience with. I'm just starting to get to know. We also have the growth of plants and animals that are raised with this water and right, like the saturated water. Can you speak a little bit to that, because that's incredible as well.
Yes. Well, two examples pop into my head right away. First of all, when you water plants with it, it gives about a 3 times faster growth rate. Now they don't grow necessarily more; they just grow faster, and like they'll germinate faster, and so you'll end up with a crop faster that if you're watering it with the Brown's gas. If you do it with hydroponics, now I was talking about in the ground. If you do it with hydroponics, it's 10 times faster. The plants will grow 10 times faster with the hydroponics. So now we switch over to aquaponics. The fish grow 3 times faster. So
And larger though. The fish grow larger too,
no,
though.
no, they won't. Well, koi and stuff will tend to keep growing and stuff, but most
Oh,
fish they'll just grow to their adult state and level off. They just get there faster.
have
Yep.
there been any pregnant ladies that have ingested a lot of hydrogen, like the Brown's gas? Have they had a faster gestation of their
I,
child?
I don't think so. I think the gestation rate still ends up about the same. I think
Okay,
you end up
phew.
with it,
Phew. That would be
the,
weird. You know, it's like,
it
oh,
yeah,
3 months,
but
bring me.
once the children are out and then start ingesting the water and inhaling the gas, then they take off on their own kind of thing. But the health of the fetus and the child, the baby, is much improved when the women are staying hydrated.
Yeah. Oh, that would make sense. My 30-minute timer just went off. I'm going to take a break from this for now. We might be a little warm, but I won't. I don't want to put on the fans. I built a couple of fans here to cool the
That's a good idea.
device. And it just takes honestly like 2-3 minutes, and it's back to being cool enough that. So I won't do that because that might be a little disturbing for the recording. But so this is like a great blessing for humanity on many levels. It's truly remarkable, and there's certain mysteries as well that I'm totally interested in. I was extremely interested in. My friend Topher sent me your interview with Higher Side Chats. Do you remember that one, Higher Side Chat? And
Yes.
in it, you talked about some of these kind of strange phenomena, which I'd like to ask you about with the new water. And you said there's other interesting properties that new water has. So first of all, can you tell us what new water is and what some of the cool things that you know about it? I'm really interested about in that.
Yes, the new water is if we, for example, if you have a torch that's burning the Brown's gas, what's happening is you have everything, you have all your constituents, you have the electrically expanded water, oxygen and hydrogen gases and everything coming out, you ignite it, and now you have a long, narrow flame. And that's an electrical flame. It's really not a thermal flame because you can hold your hand right next to it or wave your hand through it and you won't get burned. But if you apply it to something like the shuttle, the ceramic on the space shuttles, when they're coming down, it has to withstand immense amounts of heat,
Yeah.
but it'll just burn right through it. It won't burn through your hand or boil water, but it'll burn right through the space shuttle ceramic because it's putting the electrical energy right into there. Okay, so that's a flame.
That's
If
incredible.
you condense that, or rather, it's giving off water as its byproduct. And this is a very special water, which we're calling new water, because the molecules of the water have been split apart in hydrogen and oxygen, and now they've been recombined into water. So they've lost all of the memory and everything. I almost think of the planet Gaia, if you will, as a having a life or a soul, and its memories are in the water. Its life force is in the water. And
Right.
when you split the water up, and so you have a knowledge back billions of years, of ages, of all the things that have happened become, and when you drink water, we become part of that. We could talk about the 100 monkey thing later, but it comes to that. So
Yeah.
intelligence can be transmitted with the water. Okay, so we split the water apart, we recombine it, but because we recombine it, it's new. It has none of that memory, and it starts soaking up its environmental memories starting right then. It's like little baby water.
Yeah.
You can program that water to do absolutely astonishing things. For example, transmutation. You can literally make, and we've made 50 different minerals already with the water. It was quite by accident. We didn't know we were doing it. We just saw this bottle of mineral supplement. It had 50 different minerals in it, which you're supposed to take an ounce cup a day. You know how you're probably familiar with
Yeah,
that
for
type of
sure. Yeah.
technology. Yep. And
Electrolytes.
Yeah, and that was sitting on a shelf in the sunshine on a windowsill, and the new water, because what the fellow had been doing, this was Joseph Bender and Norman Wooten had been doing some experimentation with the torch and stuff, and they'd condensed a bunch of this uh, steam that was coming off of the flame, because as it comes back into water, it's still hot, and it's a vapor form, and so you condense that into actual liquid water, and then they
Yeah.
were collecting that and put it in a jug, and they set it up on the same windowsill, and it so happened that the light was shining from the sun was shining through the mineralized water onto this new water, and they noticed there's sediment forming in this new water. They ended up with 10 ounces of sediment forming out of absolutely pure H2O. There
10
was
ounces.
10
10.
ounces. Yes.
That's substantial.
Yes. And and I actually, they gave me those bottles. I actually have those bottles. And so they analyzed that sediment and found all 50 minerals that were in that original in the sediment. So
In the same
they
proportion. It's totally not
I
as relevant, but do you know if it's the same proportion?
I don't know if it was the same proportion. I know
So
that they found
the
these things.
light of the sun, is that an important factor?
I
Like,
believe it was. It did two things, I think. It caused an imprinting, almost like a photocopy or whatever, it imprinted, and it gave energy. Those are the two things that were needed in this particular case. It needed that imprinting and the energy. So there you go. You had these amazing thing happen with transmutation. Now there's in the electrolyzers themselves, similar to the design you have right there behind you, but larger, what I called the ER1200, we were getting sediment in them. And this one chiropractor who was using it for therapeutic purposes and had amazing healings. I have a bunch of testimonials from him. He came out of retirement to do this and did for several years. And anyway, about once a year, we'd be cleaning out the sediment out of his machine. And I just saved that sediment for, I don't know, just because I'm a pack rat, I guess. And it ended up, I had 19 pounds of this sediment. Now that now, interestingly enough, the plates inside the machine weigh 19 pounds. And when they're new, and they still weighed 19 pounds when we put them back in, we use the same plates, put them back in, just clean the thing out to get the sludge out. And in any case, I had 19 pounds of this sediment, which when it was analyzed, had all the elements of stainless steel, which were the same as the plates inside the machine.
and you're using distilled water.
Distilled water, only distilled water in the machine.
Okay, okay, that's amazing. So that's not necessarily the new water, but that's around the phenomenon of the electrolyzer, like the
Right,
generator.
right. So transmutation. So I think new water is forming in the electrolyzer itself and being imprinted by the stainless steel and stuff that's around it and causing the sediment in the electrolyzer. So the new water, now we can go to other things and this kicks over into the homeopathy,
Yeah.
because
Oh,
with
I
the
was gonna
new
say that.
water, if you imprint it with information or elements or anything like that, it seems like you can literally make fuel out of it. You can burn this water if you tell it that it's gasoline. It'll say, okay, I'm gasoline, and I'll work like gasoline. And you can make drugs out of it. You can say, okay, do the effects of aspirin, and it'll say, okay, when somebody ingests me, I'll tell them I'm aspirin, and the body will act just like I'm aspirin. And so you can make fuel, you can make drugs, you can do all kinds of things with this water. Tell it to
With
be
the new
things
water, the new
with
water.
the new water. Yes, with the new water.
Holy caramba. It's like there have been studies done around, Michel Schiff and Jacques Beneviste in France were doing these tests of the memory of water, right? And
Right.
then the scientific community tried to pull that apart, but then they reproved it that it was legitimate. Well, they could take a bit of water and, have a neurotransmitter in it and then filter out all neurotransmitter and just put the water, and the cell responded as if the neurotransmitter was in it. So, and that's not even with new water, that's just with regular water.
Right.
So the new water sounds like it's like virgin, pure potentiality there.
Yes. I think of it very similar to the Philosopher's Stone legends. So extending life, transmuting materials, all that kind of stuff can be done with this.
And if you didn't imprint it with anything and you ingested it, would it have a beneficial effect? Just being,
I have no idea. I've been too scared to do it.
I'm going to do it. I'm totally gonna do it. So this, you said you have to have a certain amount of volume of gas produced to have a decent torch. But the ER50, is that enough to have a
Yeah,
torch?
yeah, you can do a micro torch with that, and yes, you'll get a couple ounces a day of the new water with that.
How much a time would you say?
Um, you probably get 10 grams every hour or so. It'd be 2 hours,
And so
something like
how
that.
would you, like, if I shot the flame into, let's say, a retort, or like a glass, some kind of chemistry
If you
glassware.
keep it, yeah, glassware, you want something as pure as possible. I prefer quartz actually because it's healthier. Just remember, anything that happens around that water, any sound, any light, any vibration, anything is going to be being imprinted on that water. So you want to in put it into, and in this case, I'm thinking like a quartz cylinder or something like that. You shoot it in there, keep the quartz cool so that the gases, the steam condenses, and as it does it, it'll form the drops of new water and go from there. And whatever you're going to do with that water, you want to do it as soon as possible because that water is just sucking in whatever it can to grow and know and be.
Oh, I love this. This is so exciting for me. I find this fascinating. So, the glass, could you melt glass with a
Oh,
Brown's gas
no
torch?
problem. Yeah, just burn right through glass, no problem.
So
Yeah.
you would have to shoot the Brown's gas, the flame up into something that wouldn't be.
Up, down, sideways, doesn't matter. It's very laser like. Okay, it'll just stay a long, thin, narrow flame as long as it's got a air or some sort of gaseous cushion around it. And
Yeah.
because it's an imploding flame, meaning that as it's in a gaseous form, as it turns into a liquid, it contracts 1,800 times. So it's constantly contracting. And one reason it's so long and thin and narrow is it's making actually a tube of vacuum in the air. And it's just following its own vacuum tube as the flame is going out. So you can pretty much point it in any direction, um, but any direction you point it, remember the flame is longer than it looks. Like when I'm doing an oxyacetylene torch and have the gas replacing the acetylene, the flame can actually be 2.5 feet long,
Oh,
long,
wow.
thin, narrow flame. But with these micro torches, if you have your tube longer than about 6 or 8 inches, you're probably okay. You can visibly see the flame, a couple inches of flame, and then of course it goes invisible because hydrogen flames are invisible. You can't see them. And then out here somewhere, it won't actually burn through the glass or quartz or whatever it is you're using. And but keep that cold, like you can ice on it or cold water or whatever the case may
Yeah, to
be.
condense it, to help it
So
condense.
so it condenses exactly. Yeah.
Oh, this is amazing. And how much, like, how many liters per minute do you need for like a good regular awesome torch?
Well, I usually talk in liters per hour, and I rated them around 1,200 liters per hour, and it could be the torch could go down. A number one tip would be somewhere around 200. 200 liters an hour would support that. And if you and most of the torches I was making at the time I stopped making torches was around 1,800 liters an hour, which is very nice, convenient because 1,800 liters per hour makes 1 liter of new water per hour. Did you see the conversion? So
Yeah.
so with your ER50 there, that's 50 liters per hour. So you can figure out how many hours it'll take to make a liter of water by converting it to the 1,800. How many
Yeah.
hours it'll take to make 1,800 liters of gas uh, will tell you how long it'll take to make a liter of water.
So it'd take times 30 something hours.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that's a lot. So per minute, that's 30 liters per minute. That's
I'd have to do that. I
well,
went to 12
1,800
years of
liters per hour.
indoctrinational school, so I can't do math.
Well, that's just huge. I mean,
In my head.
It's 30 liters per minute. That's actually huge. What device do you use to make so much? Like,
Just a bigger version of what you got right there.
okay.
Yeah. And my
Do
Brown's
you
Gas
use
book
more
two tells
electrolyte?
people, my Brown's Gas book two tells people how to do that. You use enough the percentage of electrolyte can be the same, like the percentage in solution. And
Yeah.
when we're saying electrolyte, the electrolyte is the water and the catalyst mixed. And
Yes.
so the catalyst, I choose lye, and I design my machines to be optimized for lye, because lye is relatively benign. It's not too caustic. It's relatively easy to get pure. It's not too expensive. It's easy to get online or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, Theoretically, KOH, or potassium hydroxide, is more efficient theoretically, but I've shown that in my design of electrolyzers, if you put KOH in, it actually lowers the efficiency, because I've designed them to be more optimized for the NaOH, or sodium hydroxide.
Oh,
So
interesting.
I do it for health and safety and efficacy and practicality reasons. Uh,
Uh-huh.
there's very little difference in efficiency between the NaOH and the KOH, so I definitely prefer the NaOH.
Oh, that's
Okay.
interesting. Uh, have you played around with urea at all as an electrolyte?
Urea is not really an electrolyte. Urea is essentially a carbon with hydrogen atoms around it, and during the electrolysis, it's splitting off the carbon and hydrogens, and so you end up with a lot of gas, but you're essentially using it like a fuel. You're just breaking it apart, and you're getting a hydrogen, but then the urea goes away. It's not a catalyst. The definition of a catalyst is it doesn't get changed in the
Oh,
process of
that's right.
chemical.
It just helps the reaction along. So you're
Yeah.
actually splitting the urea and you're getting like sort of a sludgy byproduct.
Well, no, because you'll end up with, because the electrolysis is happening as well, you'll get carbon dioxide and hydrogen gases coming off. But
Oh,
eventually the process would quit if you had only pure urea in there, because you'd end up with that stuff would go away, and the process would just stop.
oh, that's so interesting because yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. That's helpful because I was gonna just play with it a little bit because at least initially it takes less energy to split the water with urea in there in the water than it does with NaOH and KOH. But then you have that
No, it
problem.
takes less energy to split the urea, not the water. The water still takes the same amount of energy, but you get more gas, and that's why people were thinking, "Oh, it's a good thing to put in there," but it's not.
I see.
Especially,
Okay, well, that's really good. Like, okay, that's really good to know. I'm gonna give it to my plants then.
yes. And what happens is for example, during electrolysis, when people were looking to get hydrogen, then they were splitting urine. You could take your urine, and it has lots of chemicals in it that act like catalysts, and
Yeah.
also a lot of urea and stuff. So you could actually use your urine to get hydrogen in, and they found that to be quite efficacious if you're looking. Yeah.
And that's interesting too, because you could remove a lot of the water from the urine and be left with all the medicinal value of the urine, which is left. I know urine has very powerful medicinal values,
Yes.
which is in the realm of alchemy. I don't know if you're
Mm.
familiar with this from alchemy, but some of this, like you said, the philosopher's stone, it does sound like alchemy. Is there anything else that you know about the new water that you could share that you've experienced or heard stories about?
Um, no, I pretty much just went over it like that. I am going to, in my AquaCure AC50, it can support a torch.
Hmm.
Its original life is a little micro torch, and I completely rebuild it, but I keep that functionality. In fact, I improve that functionality so that to be safer. I lower it from, it's a 15 to 20 psi machine when I originally get it from China, and
Yeah.
in the process of my rebuilding it, I turned it into a 2 psi machine, which they can't do over there because they don't have the technology to do it. And I tried to teach them, but they will. Oh man, they're so arrogant. It's insane.
Really?
Um,
That's
yeah,
interesting.
the engineers that we were trying to talk to just, you, a guy in his garage cannot build better than we do. We're scientists.
Yeah, sure. I can understand such an
But I
idea.
think a lot of it has to do with their profit margins are so thin over there. They can like the reason I'm buying stuff from China is because I can get the parts at 10% of the cost that it cost me to build them here in North America, which
Yeah.
allows me to sell the machines at essentially $2,500 instead of $4,000 or $5,000,
Yeah,
which I'd
very
have to do
reasonable.
if this was,
Also
yeah.
for your kits, the kits, like I was gonna buy a kit from you, but I think you're a little back ordered, right?
Yeah, at the moment I don't have, I'm out of stock on the kits,
Well,
unfortunately.
that I want to talk to you about that because I want you to beef up your stock and everything. And but the prices that you were offering your kits at were less than what I paid over here, you know, like just to get the parts myself and do it all myself. So
Yes.
that's something to be said. You're offering a very reasonable price. Okay, so yeah, you were saying torch, AC50,
Yes.
new
Um,
water.
so the new water, so people will be able to make the new water because I'm there. I have two projects going right now. One is the first one is making nano bubbles in water,
Oh
because right
yes, I want to hear about this because I tried to do that myself.
because what happens is the when you're just infusing hydrogen into water, water doesn't accept hydrogen very well, and so you can only put in a very small amount, like 1.6 parts per million, of hydrogen molecules can kind of squeeze in between the water molecules and kind of stay there.
Yeah,
But if you have the nanobubbles, you can get 100 or 1,000 times more hydrogen into the same volume of water, and the water can still be pretty much transparent or maybe a little foggy looking, but the bubbles are so small that they're almost transparent. You really can't see them. But an immense amount of gas can be stored into the water with nanobubbles.
I was
So
looking at nanobubbles that they were doing in Japan, for instance, and I haven't found out how to do it. It takes a special nozzle and a certain amount of pressure. Is that right?
that's one way. There's about 5 ways to do it. I'm right now I'm experimenting with special pumps that are designed to have their own internal pressure, and they're designed to mash the gases, break the gases into nanobubbles, and get them in the water. So by the time the water comes out, it's got this foggy look to it, and
I
it's
think the
full of
healing is going to
bubbles
be
there.
much faster with that Brown's gas water.
Exactly. Because and then, but do remember that even though when you're drinking the water, you're getting some hydrogen in you.
Yeah.
12 seconds of inhaling the gas gives at 2% gas is gives you as much hydrogen right into your bloodstream because it goes right from your lungs into your blood as drinking a liter of 1.6 parts per million hydrogen rich water.
Right.
So in 12 seconds, you get that same amount of hydrogen. And you still need both because some ailments are best mitigated by the water, and some are best mitigated by the inhalation. I'd say that 10 times more by the inhalation, but you still need that water to make it work.
Yeah,
So
that makes sense. Sure.
pretty
Okay.
much got to do both. And so that's what I call the four protocols. You can inhale, you can drink, you can put the gas on the skin, and you can put the
Yeah.
water on the skin.
Yeah.
So then I'll be coming out with two more protocols that essentially is the deuterium depleted water, which you can make by the new water is deuterium depleted. And then of course the sixth one is using the new water itself in a, for lack of a better word, homeopathy type situation. So in
Oh,
any
that's
case, when you're bathing, for example, you can only get some hydrogen in the water. And really a bubbler, a regular fish tank bubbler with the hydrogen in the water does really well. They're using them in spas in Japan and getting good results because your body knows to suck that your skin. If those hydrogen molecules come close to your skin, it just sucks it right in. It's amazing in the water. So it doesn't take very much hydrogen in the water, and you're getting the therapeutic or some value. I can't say therapeutic in that case because when you get the nano bubbles in there, it's really going to go. So the and yeah, I just thought of another thing they're doing over in Japan where they actually put dish stuff like dish soap, but pretty much compatible with the skin, um, and then they'll bubble it in the water, and they'll take the foam because as the bubbles are bubbling in the water, it's making bubbles in the soap, the
yeah.
same bubble bath kind of thing,
Yeah.
and you can put those bubbles of hydrogen or Brown's gas on the skin everywhere on the skin instead of taking a bath. You're just cutting and putting masses of bubbles on you.
Right. And then your body's just absorbing all this gas through your skin, which is a different breathing organ than your lungs. It would have
Yeah,
different benefits for that.
exactly. And your
That's
skin is your
fantastic.
largest organ, and it's actually an excretory organ as well. So it helps get rid of the toxins and all the kinds of things that the body needs to do. And
Right.
that's really the advantage of the two different the four protocols. When you're inhaling and you're drinking, your body takes the hydrogen and puts it where the body thinks it needs it most. So if you have arthritic hands like I had,
Yeah.
you may not get the benefit by drinking and inhaling right away. You would eventually. If you want to get it, you put a glove on and you put the gas there so that the gas goes directly into the skin of your hand. So you decide where the gas goes. And the same thing with the hydrogen-rich water. And you're putting it on an age spot. You decide where the gas is going. But when you're inhaling and drinking, your body decides where the nutrition goes. And your
What if
body's
you had a
very
whole
wise.
bodysuit that you breathe more regular, right? And you just put yourself in a high pressure hydrogen environment.
I get this question more often than a person might think.
Really?
Think of it this way. If you fill this thing up with a balloon up with this gas and ignite it, it will go bang.
Bang.
Okay. And it'll be a very loud bang. And
Oh
that's
yeah.
just at atmospheric pressure. And if you, so imagine yourself now in a big bag of explosive gas
Not a good idea. Not a good idea.
that'll
Okay,
make a,
fair enough.
okay. Yeah.
Next subject. But one question I have, which I'm very interested. Okay, I want to talk to you a little bit more about this nano bubbling, which is I think has huge potential. I just know it does because everything nano is a lot more efficient. It has way more
Right.
surface area, and by that fact, it just is very efficient. How long, like so for instance, this water right now is saturated because you said at 50 liters per hour you saturate 1 liter in 10 minutes. So I have
Correct.
2 liters. So in 20 minutes, it's saturated.
Well, you're going from one, is that jug, 2 liter a jug?
Yeah, these are both 2 liter. Yeah.
Okay. So yes. And so yes, in 20 minutes, it's fully saturated.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's right. Now, how long
what
does
some
it
people,
stay saturated? Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
what some people do is put one jug after another, but that tends to raise the pressure. But then you're going from 2 liters to 2 liters to 2 liters to 2 liters, and it'll saturate that whole line as you're doing it, as the gas goes from one to the next to the next.
Oh,
It
yeah.
doesn't saturate one until it's done and then start the next one. It saturates them all pretty much at the same
All at
time.
the same time. So that's excellent for let's say agricultural purposes
Yeah.
or fish or whatever you're doing or
Well, in
you're
that case, what I recommend is just having a big vat of water, a big tub of water, and you're just doing the whole thing all at the same time. But
oh
that's again where these nanobubbles will really shine, because I don't know how nanobubbles will affect fish, but plants, it's likely to make them just go nuts. Yeah.
yeah, that's amazing. Now, what I've been really curious about is how long. Let's say I make this water right here and I don't drink it right away, or it's sitting in the fridge or whatever. How long will it stay saturated? How long does it?
If it's in a sealed container,
Yeah.
at essentially room temperature, cooler in the fridge, it'll last longer, but at room temperature, the hydrogen is half gone in a day. And it doesn't matter if it's glass, plastic, or iron, or like stainless steel or something. The only thing that holds it twice as long is aluminum. And I don't know why, but there's some sort of physical effect that holds hydrogen. Aluminum holds hydrogen better.
Oh,
Unfortunately, I don't put anything in aluminum that's going to be going in my body, so I don't take advantage of that.
right,
But
which is
the
bizarre. Yeah, I can think because aluminum also has a blocking effect on orgone itself.
hmm,
So, like if you want to contain orgone, you could do that with aluminum.
so
Copper conducts it like it does electricity, and aluminum blocks it.
in- interesting.
Yeah,
Good to
I
know.
wonder if that has something to do with it because there's, orgone and water are they're related. They're kind of related. Orgone can dwell within water. So if it's sitting in a sealed vessel, if it's open on your counter,
In minutes,
how
it's gone. Minutes. Yep.
in minutes?
Yep.
Amazing.
Yep.
So drink
What
it right
happens the sooner you drink it, the better off you are, which is one of the reasons I sell machines rather than bottled water. And then another reason it ended up being that you get the inhalation, which gives you so much more benefit than bottled water possibly could. So the water, yes, drink the water as soon as possible, but it's okay to put it in a sports bottle, similar to this. Doesn't have to be anything fancy, and you can take it with you during the day and keep yourself hydrated as well. It
I can see what you mean. Like if you're marketing like Brown's gas charged water, but it's been sitting there for weeks on the shelf, and then you buy it, you're not getting much hydrogen or no hydrogen.
exactly, and that has been happening out there. There's now to give them credit, most of the people that have been doing that have been selling the water in aluminum pouches.
Oh,
So that
interesting.
so that now I think the aluminum isn't actually touching the water. I think that there's probably some sort of food grade film on it, and then the aluminum. But still,
Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm. That's so cool. So, are there any other topics that we haven't covered? One thing that we were talking about before is that China is way advanced in the technology compared to Canada, U.S., et cetera. And they have been. You mentioned that they were using this as the number one way of healing people with the present situation.
absolutely, it's number one on their treatment list. And what they're finding is that when, for example, since now we know, and there's proof out there that it's a circulatory disease rather than a respiratory disease. I was kind of forgiving the doctors somewhat, because when the people would go to the hospital, by the time they couldn't breathe very well, and getting into what is called dyspnea situation, where their lungs, it turns out it's more an allergic reaction anyway. At that point, it does present as a respiratory disease, and doctors seeing oxygen levels in the 70s even
Yeah.
uh, think that they need to put the patient immediately upon a respirator, and 8 to 9 out of 10 of them would die.
Yeah.
Um, and it turns out that if they use this treatment, the Brown's gas treatment, instead of putting them on a respirator, just start giving them Brown's gas. Within minutes, they start breathing easier, and within 3 days, they're walking out of the hospital.
That's
Totally
incredible.
different situation. Yes,
And it's like I said, it's really not that hard to make any kind of Brown's gas generator. Like to make it very efficient is is a different
yeah.
story.
There's a lot. I've spent literally millions of dollars learning how to make them very efficient, but you don't actually have to have them very efficient. You just have to have them. Certain characteristics have to be there to have Brown's gas, and
Yeah,
it doesn't have to be really high quality Brown's gas. You just have to have even some electrically expanded water. You're going to get the hydrogen and oxygen in any case, but
yeah,
you want to get as much of the electrically expanded water as possible to get the maximum therapeutic effect. But you don't want to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on an electrolyzer. Something in the $1,000 range will give you enough to have a therapeutic benefit. So that's
yeah. And is that like in the ER50, there's that neutral plate. Does that have part of the, is that part of the secret of the
no,
EXW?
no. That just increases the efficiency of the machine, because you have the two cell tubes on either side, and then there's a large gap, that's 3.5 inches or something, between this cell tube and this cell tube,
Yeah, from
and just
The T junction down here.
exactly. So what I do is I simply take and have a strap of metal that conducts the current from one side to the other.
That
So you
makes
don't
sense.
have all the resistance of the fluid in the middle. So it just kind of bypasses that center part, and that's why I call it neutral zone, because now that's neutral. It's not got anything. And in upgraded versions of what you have right there, I might have a float switch down in there that controls the fluid level and things like that.
Yeah,
So that's why I had that neutral zone. But know that that plate just simply causes the electricity to bypass.
I
So the
see.
electrons are
That
coming
makes
in the negative terminal, and going through the cell to another plate, through that plate to another plate, and depending on each plate, which side the electrical potential is on depends on which side the gas is being produced. So let's say we're starting with a terminal plate on this side, which is negative, and we're putting the electrons in here. Then we're going to have hydrogen generated here. Now the next plate along on this side of it, because the electrical potential across the cell, this is going to be more positive. than this one over here. So it's oxygen's going to go off that side. But on the other side of this very same plate, it's more negative than the one over there. So now you're getting oxygen off this side here and hydrogen off this side here of the same plate. And then
Yeah.
you you go over here, you get your oxygen and hydrogen, and it just keeps going all the way along. So the same electrical potential is going through, the electrons are going right through the whole machine, and each cell is generating a certain amount of gas as it's doing it, hydrogen, oxygen gases, and of course, the electrically expanded water in the middle of each of those cells.
That's amazing. And so is there a diminishing effect, diminishing return as you go towards the center of between the
No.
two electrodes?
Oh, no, no. But there is a diminishing or increasing effect depending on a bunch of different factors having to do with temperature and frequency, pressures, those kind of things, what the plate spacing would be. So
Mm.
as you are very narrow, you get a certain amount of gas, and certain conditions are doing it. As you widen it out, you actually end up with more gas, and we get the most amount of gas at 120 pulses per second, 100 to 120 pulses per second, which is what is happening with your feeding the current from the wall main there, at about 3/8 of an inch. So you're getting your maximum amount of electrically expanded water. As you continue out further, like say to a half an inch, your gas production actually goes down. You're getting less efficiency of the hydrogen and oxygen, more resistance across the cell, less electrically expanded water, that sort of thing. And that reminds me of this fellow, this Asian fellow that I met when I was over in Germany. I'm zoning on his name right now. Shut, I think something like that. If you look at the water conference, um, Jerry Pollock's or Gerald Pollock's uh, German Water Conference in 2019, October 2019, you'll see his presentation. And he showed that it actually builds an electron bridge, is what I was, that bridge I was talking about. And so you've got an electrical potential across, and it can form in a certain, it forms the bridge. If you go too far, the bridge kind of disintegrates, and it kind of stops. Too close, and you're not getting the electrically expanded water that you potential that you could. So this is an actual electrolysis thing that's happening, that's in addition to a side effect of the electrolysis, the Faraday electrolysis. So you're still in Faraday, you're getting a hydrogen and oxygen,
Yeah.
but you've got this in Brown's gas, you're getting this additional gas, the electrically expanded water.
Which we've heard all these beautiful, amazing things about it. George, do you have any books from your Eagle Research website that you would recommend people, like, what, somebody's new to this, they want to read up on it? What books would you recommend from your website?
Well, the Brown's gas book one is theory, and it's slightly wrong because it kind of assumed that we were getting monatomic gases to justify all this extra gas production. Uh,
Uh-huh.
the Brown's gas book one resources corrects that misunderstanding, and talks about the electrically expanded water, which is what, where the extra volume is coming from. Brown's gas book one tells you how to build a little micro electrolyzers and experiment, and actually even a side effect of super efficient, over efficient heating of water. There's a way to heat water with less electricity than an electric element, which is supposedly 98% efficient.
Yeah.
You can get 130% efficiency heating water with this technique. And then Brown's gas book two, now by then we understood the electrically expanded water, and it tells you how to build large electrolyzers, very efficient. In other words, larger than the ones you've got back there. It'll actually run a fuel, oxyacetylene torches, and do a bunch of other things with.
Like, if you had, like, my wife and I, and we want to buy a school, we want to convert a school bus into a schoolie, and kind of like a moving tiny home, you know.
Yes,
So those things are, their fuel efficiency is horrible. They get like 6 to 12 depending on miles per gallon, which is ridiculous.
yes.
Um, how much fuel, how much liters per minute would you, or liters per hour would you expect you'd want to get to, like, increase that efficiency?
Very little. It takes very, very little, and most people are producing too much. If you because you want to use the gas as a catalyst, not a fuel. As a catalyst, it helps the fuel that you're using burn better. As a fuel, you're trying to burn the brown gas itself to get motive power. And
Uh-huh.
and it takes a lot of energy to split the water to make enough fuel to run the engine as a fuel. And I don't know how to lower that energy yet. We talked about that earlier. But you can make a little amount of Brown's gas and put it in with the regular gasoline or diesel, and it'll help break the fuel molecules apart more efficiently.
Yeah.
A little tiny technical thing. I'll try to keep it. What you're doing is lowering the endothermic, which means the amount of energy put into the to breaking apart the fuel. You're lowering that energy because the catalyst helps to break apart the atomic bonds without so much energy.
Hmm.
So then you gain more of the exothermic energy on the other end, which is the normally you're using a lot of that exothermic energy to break apart the fuel molecules.
Yeah,
So
they
if you're
use
using
gas to break apart gas, so that's why it's not efficient.
it uses the heat to break apart the gas. Yes, and burning the
Yeah.
gas makes the heat to break apart the gas. That's called self-propagation.
Yeah.
So you're lowering the self-propagation energy, therefore you have more energy left over to make heat. And internal combustion engines run on heat. And so the more heat you have from your fuel to run the engine, you end up with that's where you're getting your efficiency gain. So you only need enough of the Brown's gas to go in there to help break apart those fuel molecules, and that's it. If you have any more than necessary to break apart the fuel molecules, then you actually start losing mileage because you're using more electricity to break apart to make the gas than you're getting back from the breaking apart from the combustion process. So
And
the
that limits your fuel, like because it's on the same alternator, so your engine is to be less efficient. You're drawing too much power. Is that it?
That's right. That's right.
Oh, I
Yeah.
see. Oh, that's amazing. That's really excellent information. So in your experience, let's say there's a like one of the great engines of the school buses that they recommend is the Cummins 8.3
Mhm.
liter, massive beast.
Mhm.
How much liters per minute or per hour, whichever you prefer, would you suggest it for such an engine?
With my Hyzor design, which I have a book called Hyzor Technology, and you can buy that.
Yeah.
It'll tell you exactly how to build the and so it's and the ratio comes out to pretty much exactly 1 amp per liter of engine displacement. So if it's a 6 liter engine, 12 liter engine, you'd use 6 or 12 amps. And then you go back into the book and it tells you what size plates, the plate spacing, everything for to make the 12 amp electrolyzer that you would need for that.
Excellent. Amazing. Amazing. So this has been so thrilling. Like I said, I could probably have you and ask you a million questions here, but I don't want this to get too epically long. But I would like to offer you the opportunity to just share any words of wisdom, any encouraging words, unspoken expression, whatever you'd like to share at this time before we kind of close.
At this time, my life is pretty much taken up by helping people be healthy and as much as possible preparing for the things that are going to be coming. Uh, all the things that people have seen so far in this current situation is only just the start.
Yes.
So prepare, and health is one of the most important things that you can do. And
Yes.
you have. I'm sorry, this is my personal opinion, and everybody make their own choices. But I
Yeah.
think you have to pull back from anything that's being offered out there, and start making personal choices that you can do at home without pharmaceutical mitigation as
Yeah.
much as possible. You want to pull back from a health system that's broken.
Yeah.
It's been made to maximize profit for the billion and soon to be trillionaires, and the poor are just getting poorer and unhealthier. And I even think there's a genocidal agenda going on. So I'm thinking if you want to live through what's going to be coming, and quite frankly, my personal opinion again, apocalyptic times.
Yeah.
I think that there's going to be a lot fewer people on the planet in 5 or 6 years and it's going to start this fall.
Yeah.
I'm saying this now in June of 2021, and there's something called pathogenic priming that's going to be happening You guys can look it up and what have you. Um, that
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%, by the way. My research and awareness supports what you're saying 100%. Now, you had mentioned something like you had made a video on Brown's gas and the current situation last year. And how long did it take for it to be pulled off of, was it YouTube?
Yes, it was YouTube. There was a conference, a German conference, online conference on mitigating various things that you could use to mitigate the current, well, the thing that they say came from Wuhan in 2019.
Yeah.
And there were lots of good technologies, and these people knew about my technology, so I was one of the guest speakers on there. And so I did a video, as there was a series of videos, each speaker, and my particular video got taken down within 5 minutes. It, like YouTube cut it off in June of 2020.
Yeah.
In June of 2020, there was already that sort of censorship.
That level of censorship for
That
sure. I've seen
they cut me off. Yes. I
unprecedented
am
amounts of censorship.
that video can be viewed on BitChute right now. If you go on BitChute and look up my name, you'll see that video. You'll see me looking pretty much like I still look today.
What is the title of that?
Um,
Can we say that without without?
Quite frankly, I can't remember. I can't remember. But if you just look up my name, George Wiseman.
Yeah. Sure, we'll do that.
So,
Now, can I urge you? Like, I know I can just sense, and I know from your work that you're really doing good things, and this is really needed right now. I was wondering if I could, how I could inspire you to augment the production of your products. Like, can you get an automated like conveyor belt system going where you could like what would that take right now, and is that possibly on the horizon for you?
the product I'm currently doing is the AquaCure AC50, and I have recently had to double my production because of the Greg Carlwood interview that he did with me. Like I was on his show. I did not realize that Greg Carlwood had a worldwide following of it must be millions of people, and I ended up people were so enthused by my talking there. Evidently, I was eloquent, and I, I, they bought 6 months of machines, 6 months of production in 2 weeks. So that wiped out my inventory, and I currently have an 8-week queue, which we are maintaining and now gradually reducing. Greg invited me back on his show, and I said, Greg, I think we'll wait just a little bit.
Yeah, or somehow manage to augment your production rate. But
so I'm literally getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm at my computer by 5:15. I'm working until 9:30 at night. My wife is not happy with me, but what can I do? These people need their machines.
I'll try not to send you so many little question emails that like I have been. Well, George, I want to thank you so much. This has been really exciting. I think that there might be if you're willing, a part 2 in the future. We could delve into some other topics that we didn't get a chance to talk about. God willing, and just thanks again for all you're doing and for your example that you're setting of your non-greedy model of offering things without patents and offering this information basically for free. I mean, your books are very, very reasonable, and it's, you're giving people this information to do something that's invaluable to our lives, so I salute you for that.
If people get the Brown's Gas book 2 and they go onto the ER50 sales page of my website, the kit itself can't be bought, but they can download the operation manual and they can go look at the videos, assembly videos and things like that. Between those and the Brown's Gas book 2, they'll have enough understanding to be able to build machines similar to the one you have behind you.
Yeah.
And at that point, maybe we can get some other manufacturers manufacturing these machines, those ER50s. They'll pretty much have to do it on their own. I can't help them very much. I don't have very much time right now.
Yeah.
But I'm totally willing to help people get these. We need millions of these machines out there.
Oh, yeah.
There's no question whatsoever. It's like Henry Ford said, I want a car in every driveway. I want one of these machines in every home. And if people build their own, I'm just as happy with that.
Yeah. Yeah. One in every home. That's really great. A sort of Volkswagen for the good of health. Um,
Exactly. With these,
so
it pretty much makes most hospital visits, most going to any doctors. Doctors then would be setting bones and things like that. Most of the health issues that people have, virtually every ailment known to man, if you go to the molecular hydrogen .com, I think it is website,
yeah,
Tyler LeBaron's website, you'll see that virtually every ailment known to man is addressed with this technology.
yeah, that's quite remarkable. And this is something that I'd love the naturopathic community to get interested in, and then to do some further research. So I am very interested in your nano aspects. I don't know, when can we hear more about that, or is that going to be a while? I want to implement it right now.
Every day I get up, I actually have all the equipment to, and it's half set up down in my lab,
Yeah,
in my mechanics lab to do that. And every day I just can't quite get there.
I hear you. I hear you. Well, may you be blessed with 48 hours in 24. Maybe you could get your new water to give you a little bit of time expansion, like Hermione Granger in Harry Potter books. You know, she had these time travel things. So that would be really cool. Yeah. So thanks again, George, and you know, this has been a great. I'm very excited about this NDs for Truth, to share this with the ND community, and also there's lay people that also watch these as well. So we're going to be getting, hopefully, lots of people hearing you on this.
Well, it's certainly a technology that as its time has come, it's time to. I often say when it's time, one of the inventing things I've learned is that when it's time to railroad, you railroad. It kind of came with they were working in the mines and they were carrying things out in buckets after they'd explode the rock, and then they realized that they could put it on a cart with wheels, and they pile a cart, and then they realized it'd be better if they put the cart on tracks, and then
Yeah,
at the same time down there they developed pumps. They were originally bringing the water out with buckets because the mines would get full of water, and then they realized they could make a hand pump and pump the water out, and then that got pretty tiring, so they made a steam pump, and they were pumping the water out, and then somebody got the bright idea of putting a steam pump on the cart that they were using to with the horses hauling out the, and they were able to, because when they put it on the horses, they had the cart on the rails and the horses pulling it, and they made a little steam cart, and then they thought, we'll just take the rails and extend them right into town, and we'd get the ore right over to the smelter, and then well, we got rails here, we'll just take them to the next town and people can travel on it, and it was a steam train. So
that's yeah.
when it's time to railroad, you railroad, and this is certainly, the technology has reached a point where it's time to go.
It's
Everything is
time
in
to
place
go
to do it. Yeah.
100%. I could see that. You know, I've been feeling some ill effects from the new technology vibes that they cellular technology, trouble breathing, pain in the joints, lethargy, you name it, a lot of stuff. And since I've been drinking this, I've been feeling way better in regards to that. So there's some kind of protective enhancement going on there, which I think could save people's lives in the days to come, just like you're mentioning. So yeah, necessity is the mother of invention, right? And here we have it. So great. So God bless you, God bless all your work. May you continue to innovate and help people as you've been doing, George. Thanks so much.
It's been a pleasure.